Aloha mai kako! In this presentation, we address evolutionary trends in the kingdom Plantae. Here are the standards for this presentation. The kingdom Plantae contains the autotrophic and multicellular eukaryotes, and are the foundation of many terrestrial food webs. Unlike the kingdom Protista, all plants share fundamental characteristics, and are believed to share a recent common ancestor. Plants are photosynthetic. They use light energy to capture carbon dioxide from the air and convert it into sugars, releasing oxygen in the process. All plants capture light with the same pigments, chlorophyll A and B, which makes them appear green. Plant cells have cell walls composed of the carbohydrate cellulose, and plants do not go through a blastula stage in their embryonic development. The kingdom Plantae is divided into 9 divisions, with an estimated 500,000 species. We discuss evolutionary trends in 4 major divisions in this presentation. Plants have a life cycle that is fundamentally different than ours. Plants may reproduce asexually, or alternate between a haploid and diploid form in a sexual cycle called alternation of generations. Follow along on the diagram below. Okay, so we'll start right here. Haploid gametes, sperm and egg, unite in fertilization to form a diploid zygote. The zygote divides by mitosis to produce a multicellular diploid individual called a sporophyte. The sporophyte goes through meiosis to create haploid cells, right here. These cells, called spores, do not act like gametes, but instead grow by mitosis to produce a multicellular haploid individual called a gametophyte. The gametophyte may be male or female, and in turn produces gametes that fuse to restore the sporophyte generation. Unlike the human life cycle shown here to the right, plants have a free-living haploid and diploid stage. Plants are believed to have evolved from the green algae, which share many characteristics with them, including cell and pigment types. The first land plants appear in the fossil record about 500 million years ago, just as complex eukaryotes were colonizing terrestrial environments on Earth. Indeed, the major evolutionary trends in kingdom Plantae can best be understood as adaptations for life in terrestrial environments. Now, it's unclear whether plants, fungi, or a third, now extinct group was the first multicellular eukaryote to colonize the terrestrial environment. Whatever the case, it is clear that mutualistic relationships between plants and fungi helped both groups to become successful on land. The picture to the right shows the association of plant roots with an underground fungus, which is this white filamentous stuff over here. This association, called a mycorrhiza, is mutualistic and is a fundamental part of soil biology around the globe. The fungi help to absorb essential minerals for the plant, and the plant provides sugars from photosynthesis to its fungal partner. As members of the Chlorophyta made the move to a terrestrial environment 500 million years ago, they faced many challenges. In aquatic environments, there's never a lack of water, so there's no need for specialized tissues used to manage water. Indeed, the entire alga can absorb water, carbon dioxide, and nutrients directly from its surrounding environment. Water is also denser than air and helps to support the algae. Plants on land require more complex tissues used to absorb, transport, and store water, as well as to support the leaves. The ancestors of plants had sperm that swim to the egg in the surrounding water, and this would limit less complex plants to wet environments and lead to the evolution of pollen. Finally, most plants have 2 copies of each gene, a condition called diploid. Algae and less complex plants are primarily haploid. This is probably because terrestrial environments are more dynamic than aquatic environments, and there is a greater chance of genetic damage. In this case, 2 copies of each gene are advantageous, just in case one copy is damaged. First, let's recall that in the kingdom Plantae, the subdivisions are called divisions, not phyla. The 4 divisions of plants we consider here, from simplest to most complex, are division Bryophyta, including the mosses, liverworts, and hornworts, division Pteridophyta, including the ferns, Division Pinophyta, sometimes called Coniferophyta, the gymnosperms, and division Angiospermae, the flowering plants. These four divisions of plants that we discuss show increasing adaptations for life on land. The mosses, ferns, pine trees, and flowering plants are examples of these divisions, and some of the general patterns of increasing complexity are shared here. Here's another view of the major plant divisions, this time shown as a phylogeny. Let's now take some time to go over the important adaptations that are found in these divisions of plants. The first major adaptation was the evolution of vascular tissues, in particular xylem and phloem. These tissues are made of tube-like cells that run throughout the inner plant and serve to transport water and food from place to place, as shown in the diagrams to the right. The water-carrying tubes are called xylem and have thick cell walls that help to hold water and to keep it from escaping. These water transport tissues eventually form the wood of more complex plants and also serve to support the stem and leaves. The tissues that are specialized to carry food from the leaves to the roots are called phloem. These vascular tissues are not found in bryophytes like mosses, and is one reason that mosses are small and limited to wet environments. In chlorophytes, the entire organism can absorb water, carbon dioxide, and nutrients directly from the surrounding water through diffusion. However, in kingdom Plantae, we find the evolution of specialized tissues like roots, stems, and leaves that serve the same purpose. Roots are found in all complex plants, but are not found in mosses. They anchor and support plants, as well as absorb water and nutrients from the soil. Roots are also aided in these functions by symbiotic associations with soil fungi, called mycorrhizae. In a typical tree, there is as much mass underground as there is above ground, as illustrated in the diagram below. Because they are underground, roots do not perform photosynthesis and depend on above-ground organs for food. Stems are found in all complex plants, but not mosses. Stems support the leaves and allow them to collect energy from sunlight, as well as to transport water and nutrients between the leaves and roots. Stems are often photosynthetic and green, and can be modified for other functions like storage of excess foods or asexual reproduction. The diagram below shows cross-sections of different kinds of stems. The complicated patterns you see are different specialized cell types and tissues, including the xylem and phloem, the vascular tissue. Leaves are also found in all plants except the mosses. Leaves are the solar panels of the plant and are typically flat and wide to collect light energy. They can be arranged in different ways to maximize the amount of light a plant can collect. Leaves are also the site of gas exchange in plants, where carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is exchanged for oxygen that is produced in the process of photosynthesis. So take a look down here at the leaf cross-section. The complex structure of the tissues helps the plant to perform its functions, the collection of light and the exchange of gases. Another adaptation found in kingdom Plantae is the replacement of swimming sperm with sperm that is delivered to the egg in a resistant packet called a pollen grain. Simple plants like mosses and ferns retain the swimming sperm of their algal ancestors. These sperm have various numbers of flagella and can be quite enormous as far as sperm go, shown here to the left. Mosses and ferns can therefore only reproduce when it rains. More complex plants deliver sperm in tough, long-lived packets called pollen, which eliminates the need for moisture in sexual reproduction. Here's some pollen grains in this picture here to the right. Plants may be asexual or sexual, and can spread by either means. Simple plants like mosses and ferns spread by single-celled propagules called spores, shown in the diagram above. Spores are tiny and not very long-lived, and they must land in appropriate locations to germinate and grow. More complex plants disperse by seed, which are multicellular packets that contain a small embryonic plant. As illustrated in the lower diagram, the plant embryo is enclosed in a tough covering called the seed coat, and is usually packed in there with some stored food. Seeds are much longer lived and more resistant to drying out than spores. Conifers and flowering plants spread by seed. Let's now take a closer look at each of the selected plant divisions. Division Bryophyta are the least complex of the plants and include the mosses, liverworts, and hornworts. As the first plants to colonize the land, the bryophytes have much in common with the algae and are still limited to wet environments. Bryophytes are gametophyte or haploid dominant. That is to say, when you're looking at a moss, you are seeing primarily haploid tissue. They are spread by spores. Bryophytes have no specialized tissues for support or transport of water and must remain close to the earth. They form mats on logs and on the forest floor, growing best in damp, shaded environments. Sporophytes grow out of the tops of gametophytes and often look like hairs growing out of the mat of moss. Mosses cannot reproduce sexually unless they are wet because they have swimming sperm. Division Pteridophyta includes ferns and their close relatives. Ferns are sporophyte or diploid dominant and are also dispersed by spores. Unlike bryophytes, they have specialized vascular tissues for support and transport of water, and some species can reach 60 feet in height. Ferns cannot reproduce sexually unless they are wet, because they also have swimming sperm. Division Pinophyta, or Coniferophyta, also called the gymnosperms, includes the evergreen trees and shrubs like pines. Gymnosperms are sporophyte or diploid dominant and dispersed by multicellular and resistant propagules called seeds. They have specialized vascular tissues for support and transport of water and produce wood. The tallest living tree on the planet Earth is a conifer. It's a type of redwood in California. The sperm of gymnosperms is enclosed in a pollen grain and can be blown to the egg by the wind. Gymnosperms need water to live, but not to reproduce. Division Angiospermae includes the most complex of plants, showing the greatest adaptations to terrestrial environments. For this reason, the flowering plants are the most abundant and successful of plants on the land. Angiosperms are sporophyte dominant and dispersed by seeds. They have specialized vascular tissues for support and transport of water, and they also become woody. Some species can reach over 300 feet in height. The sperm of angiosperms is also enclosed in pollen grains. They have even evolved mutualistic relationships with insects and animals, pollinators, that help to deliver the pollen to the ovary. This data table summarizes the important similarities and differences among the major divisions of plants. Take some time now to pause the video and copy this important information down. Plants are incredibly important to life on this planet. First of all, most terrestrial food chains are based on the energy and matter collected by plants. Everything we eat comes directly or indirectly from plants. Wheat, corn, rice, barley, and soybeans are the most abundant crops on Earth and sustain the mass of humanity on the planet. As plants cannot flee competitors or predators, they have developed an armory of chemical weapons, many of which we use as drugs. Similar to our Hawaiian ancestors, 4 out of 5 people alive today still rely on plants as their primary sources of medicines. Plants also provide a variety of ecosystem services, described in the column to the right. Plants absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen, which helps to curb the effects of climate change due to the use of fossil fuels. Plants also help to regulate the water cycle, storing and purifying water as it passes through these living filters. Finally, plants provide habitat for all other forms of life on Earth. Plants have also played a special role in the natural and cultural histories of Hawaii. When our ancestors first arrived here, they found that 90% of all flowering plants were unique to this archipelago, having evolved in isolation for millions of years. Hawaiians were and are plant people. Lacking mineral metals and large animals, ancient Hawaiians turned to plants and stones as their primary sources of material culture. Think of any traditional Hawaiian activities: farming, fishing, hula, open ocean navigation. Each of them requires tools that are made primarily from plants. Indeed, in traditional thought, Hawaiians themselves were descended from the kalo plant. Even Hawaii's modern history was shaped by plants. Consider the role of sugarcane, for example, in the loss of native ecosystems and the overthrow of the Hawaiian government. Thanks for listening.